It says there, the basic theme of Bruno's Spaccio della Bestia Trionfante, that's his book from 1584, the one that got him condemned, is the glorification of the magical religion of the Egyptians. Their worship was really the worship of, quote, God in things, unquote. Yeah, God in things. For diverse living things represent diverse spirits and powers, which beyond the absolute being which they have, obtain a being communicated to all things according to their capacity and measure. Whence God, as a whole, though not totally, but in some more, in some less excellently, is in all things. So there he explains that God is in all things. Some excellently, but he is in all things. And this is how he explains this. For Mars is more efficaciously in natural vestiges and modes of substance, in a viper or a scorpion, nay, even an onion or garlic, than in any inanimate picture or statue. Thus one should think of Sol, that's the sun, as being in a crocus, a daffodil, a sunflower, in the cock, in the lion, and thus one should conceive of each of the gods through each of the species, grouped under the diverse genuses of the ends. As for the divinity, for as the divinity descends in a certain manner, inasmuch as it communicates itself to nature, an ascent made to the divinity through nature. Now, just a pause there. Yeah, that's the ascent, the ascension that we're noticing a lot more being discussed in recent times, the ascension of the human race, or at least a portion of the human race. This is what Giordano is discussing there. As the divinity descends, and that's what the Bible calls the Word being made flesh. The Word is sound and light. Because Christ is the Word and Christ is light. Light is the Creator. Light causes all things to manifest. And as the divinity descends through the levels of light, so the divinity must also ascend. Continuing on, thus through the light which shines in natural things, one which presides over them. And in truth I see how the wise men by these means had power to make familiar, affable, and domestic gods, which through the voices which came out of the statues gave counsels, doctrines, divinations, and superhuman teachings. Whence with magical and divine rites they ascended to the height of the divinity by that same scale of nature by which the divinity descends to the smallest things by the communication of itself. But what seems to me most deplorable is that I see some senseless and foolish idolaters who no more imitate the excellence of the cult of Egypt than the shadow approximates to the nobility of the body, and who seek the divinity, of which they know nothing, in the excrements of dead and inanimate things, and who not only mock at obscene worshippers, but also at us, reckoning us to be no better than beasts. And what is worse, they triumph at seeing their foolish rites in such repute, while those of the others are vanished and annulled. Again, this is what the powers that be in Rome has done, as he says that they triumph in seeing their foolish rites in such repute, whilst those of the others are vanished and annulled. This is how the indigenous people of the Americas were treated. They were not allowed to practice their old, ancient teachings that were passed down to them from eons and eons of time. They were destroyed. Many of their religions were destroyed and defaced and decapitated. Many of their buildings and temples were destroyed. And of course, only 4 of the lenses survived, the Popol Vuh. But this has been the modus operandi, and Giordano Bruno called them out. He called them out way back then, and they're being called out today. They are definitely being called out today. So there you have it. Giordano Bruno was talking about the true way, the true path, which is science. He was a scientist, and all philosophers study physics, logic, and ethics, which are sciences, and the 7 liberal arts, which are sciences: astronomy, or cosmology, mathematics, music, geography, or geometry, and of course logic, grammar, and rhetoric. And so that's what the scientist studies. Whereas the churchgoer is told to disregard those things. That's the foolishness of the world, and the world is perishing. So as we go to the break, that's my tribute to Giordano Bruno, and hopefully we can do some research on this wonderful man and bring to light his glorious teachings and the wisdom that he had and the depth of understanding. And he was a light to the world. Let's continue to remember Giordano Bruno. Welcome back. You're with Santos on Oracle Broadcasting Network, and honouring the memory of Giordano Bruno, who died on the 17th of February, just yesterday for Northern Americans. Oh, actually, no, it's 2 days ago now. On the year 17th of February in the year 1600, Giordano Bruno was killed in Inquisition in the Piazza dei Fiori in Rome. And of course there would have been many people on the said date in Rome to remember the memory of Giordano Bruno. For every year he has attracted people to his statue that they have there in memory of Giordano Bruno. Now, Giordano Bruno acknowledged, as I just read from the book of Francis Yates, Giordano Bruno and the Hermetic Tradition, he acknowledged that the Sun and Mars and all the planets are in all things. So, what did he mean by that? Well, as those Hermetic scientists understood, the Sun is in all things. The Sun is the creator. He is the creator, because the light is what sustains all the visible objects that you see and organisms visible to the human eye in the solar system. He makes them. He's the maker. He is the creator. Of course he's in all things. He must be, because all the effects that we see are the product of light. Light is the grand creator. There in the heavens, that shining orb is Jehovah, God of armies. And as the sun is in all things, so are the 6 helpers: the moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury. They also refract light from the sun, and they also have sound which emanates from them, which also causes to create and to manifest. Without these 7 orbs in place, the 8th sphere, the earth, would not be. This fashion that the Egyptian scientists understood that everything was sustained and created by the forces of light, electromagnetism. And so they paid honour to this science, you see, and the sun was the king, the Christ in the heavens. Look, you shall see me coming in the clouds. And he is the one that has healing in its wings, Malachi 4:2. Look, there is a day coming when the sun, with healing in its wings, will heal the nations. And of course, Ecclesiastes 11:7 says, it is good for the eyes to see the sun. The Egyptians were sun gazers, as are many indigenous civilizations and peoples. Because by looking at the sun, one is able to harvest electric forces, which power the brain system. One is completely healthy with the rays of the sun. And this is something that the science consensus world will not tell you, because they tell you half-truths when they say that the sun's rays are harmful. Yes, they are. They are also harmful. And, of course, that depends on the angle of the sun. So if the sun's in the mid-heaven at noon, you can rest assured that it's going to have some ultraviolet rays that will hurt your eyes. Whereas the sun, low on the horizon, is very soft to the eyes and very loving and very healing. That's the sun with the healing in the wings. And so the Egyptians developed this science, and they always called that shining orb the king, and the moon was the queen. Jesus and Mary Magdalene, King Arthur and Guinevere, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, etc., etc. And this king is always with his 12. In the Christian system, the king has 12 apostles, the 12 apostles. In Revelation, these are the 12 pillars of the temple of God. In the Old Testament, it was Jacob, or Israel, the son, and the 12 tribes of Israel. And as the Israelites encamped in the wilderness, they were instructed to have their encampments 3 tribes per quarter, and they were camping around a circle, as the zodiac was, 3 tribes per quarter.